Hi guys, Arthur here from Homeowner DIY. In this video, I'm going to be fixing the railing for my staircase that goes to my laundry room. Now, this railing is not in bad condition. It's loose, but it's not in bad condition per se. But for the staircase, everything here was done without care. I don't think it's going to break off, but I want to make it a little more solid, and I think this is going to help you guys if you're going to have to address a similar issue. So what we'll do now is look at our setup. Alright, so the railing here is loose. You can see the gap. So what they originally did was, you see the 3-inch screws, they screwed it in. Of course, one of the screws snapped off because this was just lazily done. But the plan is, I'm going to carriage bolt that back together, and I'm actually going to put a vertical piece here because this top here is starting to sag. So I will also carriage bolt another piece here, and that's going to help strengthen this railing. So with that in mind, we'll do material and tools. Alright, this is a materials list. So I have number 8 by 3-inch deck screws, a 8-foot pressure treated 2x4. For carriage bolts, I have 3/8 by 3.5, 3/8 by 4.5 matching hardware, so washer and nuts that are also galvanized. And then I have paint, so everything is going to match when it's all done. Guys, this is the materials list for this job. So what we'll do now is a tools list. Alright, this is the tools list. So I have my pouch for hand tools, hammer, measuring tape, pencil level, cordless kit, sawzall, cordless drill impact, 4-foot level, safety equipment, earplugs, safety glasses. I have my Ryobi bit set. I think I only need the 3/8 bit. A 9/16 ratchet wrench. This is for the nuts. And then circular saw and an extension cord. This is what I believe I need for tools on this job. So let's fix this railing. Okay, so to start out, I'm going to take these two pieces out. So I'm going to unscrew it there, unscrew it down there at the bottom. So we can see how this piece, the gap, how it changes a little bit. So that is what the vertical piece is going to go in. But I'm going to take these two pieces out, and I'm going to start on the bottom down here. I'm going to drill the holes for the carriage bolts and tighten this part on first. So also, you see how the gap here and here? So when I put the new piece in, which is going to be parallel with this, so these two pieces are now, since they're in the middle, they need to be moved towards the outside, but we will cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay, so these brackets here, I need to avoid. So what I did was, I looked at the bracket here, and then I made a pencil mark on this side. So I need my carriage bolt to come somewhere down here. Now, I would say it's probably be better to be somewhere down here to the lower end of the stringer. And you can actually see the screw that used to be here has snapped off, and that's what's the play we have here. Anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the carriage bolt somewhere around here, right down the middle. So keep in mind, it's not just a matter of hitting this part here in the middle, but you also want to be sure that you're going to hit something solid on the other side with the stringer. Alright, so my pencil mark on this side here is right there. So I think somewhere down here is where I want to go through with the carriage bolt. So it's a 2x4 3.5, which means 1 and 3/4 is where I want to be. So guys, keep in mind, you want to hit this in the middle. You don't want to hit it onto the side. I don't think it matters for strength all that much, but it doesn't look very nice when it's not symmetrical. Alright, so this is our carriage bolt. I have a 3/8 bit, and we want to go just big enough. If this is a little bit slightly small and then we have to pound the carriage bolt through, that's fine, but we want to make sure that we're going to have material on this side here. Now, there are two thoughts for the head here. You can either countersink the head, or you can just have it basically flush like this, and that's what I'm going to do, but it's entirely up to you. It's whatever you want. Alright guys, one other thing to keep in mind, make sure that you have a nice long bit, something that will go virtually all the way through. If it doesn't, you don't want a short bit, something like this, because you have to drill from the other side to try to hit it. I can virtually guarantee you it's not going to wind up in alignment. So for drilling this hole, make sure that you have earplugs and eye protection. And then when we drill, obviously we want to drill level and as straight as we can. You don't want to be going in on an angle either way, because it's just not going to look very nice. And for something like this also, because the wood is constantly getting wet, make sure you drill in a bit and then you pull it out, because what can happen is your bit can get lodged in the hole from all the sawdust, and it can take a while to get the bit out. Besides that, you can also damage the bit when you try to take it out. Okay, I think I hit the screw that was on this piece of wood going into the stringer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew this, and this one, and see if I can just get this out of the way to take a look. I can either pound it out of the way or pull it out. I don't know, we'll figure this out. Okay, because I can't take any of these things out, what I have to do is I have to take the sawzall and cut up between the two of them. Alright, I'm going to cut up the seam, and I gotta take out 1, 2, 3, looks like 4 screws, as long as there's nothing else. So you can see in the top right corner, the little bit of the reflection, that's a piece of metal. So that is what my drill bit is hitting. I don't have to drill 2 of these things, and of course I had to hit something, but the way to address this is take a flathead screwdriver, go into the hole, and try to pound the piece of metal up and out of the way. Alright, so we see a screw here. So if we just put a mark to denote where the screw is going to be, so we'll just make sure that I'm going to be higher up and try to hit it somewhere around here. But all this extra work because I had to hit a nail or a screw or whatever it is, but fact of life. Alright, so we'll grab our carriage bolt, we'll put it into the hole. Now the carriage bolt is the only thing that's actually holding these 2 pieces together. So I'm going to tighten up the nut for the carriage bolt, but before I go ahead and do the other carriage bolts, which will be somewhere in this range here, make sure that this piece and the other piece are aligned. Alright, so you see how the carriage bolt is barely sticking through? That's because there's a gap on this side here. So if you need to, I'm going to just try to push using my foot to try to get it in. But once you get it started, it should be fine. If you can't get it started, try to use a C-clamp. Put a piece of wood between this and the C-clamp and the other side so you don't mark it, and then just try to tighten it up just enough to get it going. Okay, that's enough to get it started. So I have my 9/16 ratchet wrench, and I'm going to tighten it up. Alright, so I'm going to tighten up the nut, and you can watch the head get the press into the wood. And you see how much is sticking out. So remember, you don't want a carriage bolt that goes away this far, because first it looks bad, second of all it's a chipping hazard. So with the bottom one done, you see the gap, how it's gone now, so this is now nice and tight. Alright, so these screws here, whenever you're screwing in, go upward. So this one here is going upward. The reason is, first of all, the 3-inch screw is not going to poke all the way through, but any water will want to run down. If you go straight, or even worse, if you go downward, so you're screwing downward, what's going to happen is the water, as it rains, will come down and start following, and you don't want that. It's just a way to rot the wood from inside out. I will paint this later on, and then this will have to be moved, so I'll paint this too. But I've got one screw here, I've got one screw here. I put these two back in. So one thing also with this here, for the screw, make sure that the screw winds up being short. This is what you do not want. Somebody's going to get hurt, and besides, water is going to follow the screw down, running out the wood. So when you do it like this, you're going to hit the top, and then you're also going to have it where water will want to trickle down and not into the wood. Alright, so this screw head, I have my pencil mark on this side here. I think actually the screw that went through was this screw head here. Anyways, make sure, if you notice anything on the inside, there will be times when you're stacking multiple 2x4s together. As a general rule of thumb, if you're going to nail multiple 2x4s together, like 3 of them, nail them all in the same area. Don't just nail them randomly, because if you have to drill a hole for a hose bib or water pipe or anything like that for wire, if you've nailed all over the damn place, then what's going to happen is you're more likely to hit one of those nails. And if you've hit 3 or 4 on the inside, there's no way that you're going to pull it out. So if you're going to be stacking multiple pieces of wood together, nail them all in roughly the same area. But this is one nail screw here. This is my mark. We have the stringer that comes across this way. So I think probably right around here should be fine. And now it's going to be a rinse and repeat. We'll screw the hole for the carriage bolt. Okay, we'll put in the carriage bolt. Alright, so we'll clean the debris away. We'll put the washer on. Put the nuts, and it'll be the same thing. Alright, so we give it a shake. And it's already so much more solid. I probably don't even need to do the other one in the middle, but I'm going to do it anyway. Alright, so I put my 2x4 in the center of the staircase. So from the top to the bottom I measured out, and then I went in the center. Next, what I did was I grabbed my 4-foot level. It's plumb right now. And then I also, when I screwed this thing on, I also pushed up a little bit because I want to get that sagging section out of my top rail. Okay, so you see that our 2x4 is holding the railing up. So all I'm going to do is use a level, and I'm just going to parallel this and this. Okay, so this line can be cut. The piece of wood can be unscrewed and the whole thing can be moved up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this line here, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint this piece, because now is the time to paint it all the way around, and that'll give me an opportunity to paint the pieces of wood where there was damage in bare wood, so the wood is once again protected by paint and will also look better. Alright, so for our other piece here, I have a screw hole here, I have a screw hole here. So what I did was I split the difference between the two. Now unfortunately I can't film this, but I'm going to put this up in the middle here, so it'll be there. And then I'm going to plumb this with a 4-foot level. And then I'm going to put a couple screws in. The couple screws is going to hold this in place, and then we're going to figure out where to put the carriage bolts in. Okay, so I'm gonna put in 2 screws going in through here. So they're gonna go up through. Again, you don't want the tip of the screw going through the top. And that's gonna pin in this here to the top. Alright, so I put a screw in down here. So what I'm going to do is the same thing. We'll go 1 3/4 inches. And then we're going to use this point as a reference. 9.5. So a 9.5, that is the bottom of the bracket. So we need to avoid that. Alright, so I'm going to put 1 carriage bolt here, another carriage bolt there. Okay, so I didn't realize it was out of the shot, but this is the bottom of the bracket right here, and then we have to add another 1.5 inches. So this is the top of the rung, and then this will just hit the very top above the rung. So I'm gonna go ahead and then put the carriage bolt in here, and then I can take out the 2 screws that are holding this piece of wood onto this. Alright, everything is done now, so I carriage bolted that, I just screwed the 2 center railings. The idea of the center railings is, again, if like a child or something, they're not going to fall through, but that's the only point of it. I could have technically carriage bolted those 2, but this is fine because there are no kids here anyway. And then, so we'll look at this. And this here. You're going to rip this staircase apart before the railing will now fall off from the side of the staircase. So guys, that's it for this job. So what we'll do now is an overview. Alright guys, so that concludes this job. So this is relatively straightforward to do. It's just a couple carriage bolts and bolt the actual railing in instead of using 3-inch screws. The craftsmanship on a technical basis wasn't bad, but there just was no care. I mean, 3-inch screws is just a lazy way to do this, but a few carriage bolts, this thing is now strong, and I'll be able to reuse the carriage bolts when the staircase needs to be rebuilt in probably about 5 years. The time on this job, the time was about 4 hours. So that is to cut, paint, install the carriage bolts, and put everything back together. The cost of this job, the cost was about $30. So that's the carriage bolts, the pressure treated 2x4, the paint, and screws. This was relatively inexpensive, but with me having tenants, it's probably a better idea to have a solid railing so nothing happens. But if you have kids, I highly recommend to, if you have a loose railing, then to go ahead and fix it adequately. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. I hope something here is going to help you on your project, and you need to go ahead and do that. Guys, till next time, please hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next project.